just in general, product certification is a performance test or quality assurance test according to certain certification schemes. The certification body that is conducting the product certification has to be accredited according to ISO or IEC 17065. If a certification body is offering testing, including a certificate, and is not accredited, it's definitely a fake. So all the certificates can be checked on the international websites. So make sure whatever laboratory is testing your product, they have to be certified ISO 17065 and the laboratory ISO 17025. So make sure that this happens. Additionally to the accreditation, the certification body can also be notified for certain schemes or scopes. So I will now talk about those. Oh no, later. First, I am talking about how the flow is. So first, if you want to have your product certified, you have to apply to a certification body. You make sure that this certification body is accredited. The next step would be the testing of your product according to the specifications. Then there will be an evaluation if the test data indicates that the product meets the qualification criteria we were earlier talking about. And then the certification body makes a decision if the evaluation is in line and complies with the standard requirements. And then your product can be certified. And usually there is a surveillance every year, but that varies from standard to standard and from product to product. And the surveillance is to clarify if your product is performing as it is supposed to be in the marketplace. So I have selected three very common and global acknowledged conformity marks. So the first one, which is the closest to me, is the CE mark. It's a European scheme. It's coming from the French Conformité Européenne, and it ensures the conformity with health, safety, and environmental protection standards of the European Economic Area. That means many products that you want to export to the European Union have to have a CE certification. If they do so, your certification body will know. Some do not require that, some do require it. It really depends on the product as such. Then the second very common standard is the FCC mark, which is according to the American scheme. So it's a standard from so FCC stands for Federal Communications Commission, and it's applicable for electronic products produced or sold in the United States. So whenever you produce an electronic product that you want to sell in the United States, then it has to be FCC marked. And then if you are interested to export to Indonesia, many products require the so-called SNI, Standard Nasional Indonesia. And this is the National Indonesian Certification Scheme. In that scheme, we have mandatory and voluntary standards for different products that are produced and or imported to Indonesia. So it's a rather complex certification process flow. It's a bit more complex than the one I showed earlier, because for the SNI, there's also a factory inspection included. That means if you apply for SNI certification, there are two things that have to be implemented. The first one is the testing of your product in in a laboratory that is accredited by the Indonesian government. And the second thing is that there will be a factory inspection by the factory where the product is produced by the certification body appointed by the Indonesian government. Until today, those are only Indonesian certification bodies that have been appointed. So our auditors have to go to the manufacturing site and inspect if the manufacturing site complies with the quality, environmental, and safety regulations issued by the German government. In general, they are very similar to the ISO 9000, 14,000, and 45,000. But this depends really on the product, which process flow has to be followed. And here I mentioned a couple of scopes of the SNI. So first, it applies for all or for many automotive products like tires, rims, safety glass, batteries, motor oil, etc. It applies for ceramics, tableware products, or tiles, or sanitary ceramics. It applies for electrical products like lamps, stoves, washing machines, blenders, rice cookers, many others. It applies for fertilizers and cement. It applies for food, and there all of them are mandatory for sugar, flour, drinking water, milk, biscuits, cooking oil, fish, meat, many others. It applies for textiles and also for toys. So depending on what kind of products you want to export to Indonesia, you have to clarify there's a website for the SNI if your product falls under a mandatory SNI scheme. And if so, you have to approach one of the accredited certification bodies in the country, or TÜV Nord, for example, and we will help you through the certification process. I just give you also a short overview of our customers that are importing to Indonesia from Japan, from China, from the US, from, Ganja Tunggal actually is a company in Indonesia, so they are also under mandatory SNI for automotive products. And also for ceramics and food, for example, you might recognize a big European retailer. You might recognize a big cement group, European water, cookies, so many different kinds of products that fall under mandatory SNI. Yeah, and I think I'm well in time and ready for your questions.